Today we're replacing this arbor for obvious reasons.
Do you ever take on a project thinking, oh, I'll probably get that done in a weekend, and then 2 months later you finally get it done? Well, that's how this project went. Determined to make my arbor stronger and sturdier than my predecessors, so I figured the obvious place to start would be to dig some holes in the ground so that we had a good place to anchor the post to. Now, I won't bore you with the whole story, but 2 hours later, after digging some giant rocks out of the ground, we finally had a place where we could put some post. And that should have been my first warning that this project was going to take far longer than I had expected. This next step might be one of the most important parts of this entire project. And again, this took me probably 30 or 45 minutes. I needed to get everything braced up. It's really important when building an arbor to make sure that everything is parallel, plumb, level, square, check your measurements, redo it. So again, this just took way longer than I thought to get everything lined up to make sure that it would be perfect when we actually got around to building something. This next process is going to be controversial to some people out there, and you can let me know in the comments down below if you don't like it. But whenever I'm setting posts like this, I like to just put some water in the hole, add some concrete, mush it around a little bit with a stick, add some more water, add some more concrete, until a full bag of concrete is surrounding the post. Now, I wouldn't use this method if I was pouring a sidewalk or building the Empire State Building, but for setting some posts like this, whether it's for an arbor or a fence, it works just fine, and it saves a lot of hassle. A quick Google search revealed that the top of the arbor is called the roof. And yes, just so you know, I now feel like an idiot. Anyway, I want to start at the roof of this arbor, because I know if I can get the top of the post square and plumb, then everything else from there will go much easier. Another thing that took more time than expected was putting a curve on the bottom of the roof rafters. I figured the best way to do this was to clamp a piece of thin plywood to the middle of my roof rafter, bend it down, make a mark, and roughly cut it out with a jigsaw. We also decided to put a curve on the bottom corner of each roof rafter, so I made a jig, traced it out, and roughly cut these out with the jigsaw as well. So I'm not afraid to say it, sanding sucks. And sanding pressure-treated lumber sucks even more. But I didn't cut exactly to the line with my jigsaw because I wanted to be able to refine the shape. So I'm using my belt sander to sand right down to my lines to make sure that I get the perfect shape before moving on. Speaking of moving on, I thought I'd be moving on to my next project by now. But I still need to make 3 more of these roof trusses, and they all need to be the same. The process I decided to use is something I've done in the past with really good success. However, using 1.5-inch thick wet pressure treated lumber really complicated things. What I'm doing is just tracing the original truss and cutting the rough shape out with a jigsaw. My thought was that I could use this first truss as a template and use a templing bit on my router to create the other 3 trusses that I need. Now, I don't know if it was because the wood is wet, or because it's pressure treated, or 1.5 inch thick, or maybe it's a combination of all of those and I'm just an idiot. I really don't know. But this was really difficult on my router and my bit, and it took forever. But eventually I had 3 mostly identical roof trusses for my arbor. You're probably thinking to yourself, the next thing we need to do is attach these rafters to the top of the post. And you would be wrong. What I'm doing here is clamping my rafters up where I want them to go and determining where I need to cut the post off at the top. Because, of course, none of them are even. So I mark all the lines out, making sure all 4 of my posts are perfectly level all the way across, all across the top. And then I cut these with the circular saw and finish them with a handsaw. Now we can start thinking about putting the rafters on top of these posts. If you want to know how many days I am into this project, just go back and see how many times my wardrobe has changed. Anyway, before I can get these attached to the post, I need to mark some lines where the post will intersect these and a center point on each of them. So I just clamp everything together and get my marks. Now I can just clamp everything in place, make sure it's level, and attach the first outside truss with some 3-inch screws. And if only it were that easy, because now I need to attach the outside truss on the other side, and you've got inside trusses, and there are more 3-inch screws. The list goes on and on. Now that the trusses are installed, we can cut the roof decking. And this is just pressure treated 2x2 lumber cut with a 45-degree angle on each side. Now I want these to be perfectly spaced. So I measured out how much gap I had, did some calculations in math, which I hate to do,
And then divided that, so that's 48 inches.
created a spacer block, and just screwed these in place with some 2-inch screws. The 3-inch screws do a pretty good job, but I want to add more strength and a decorative touch to this structure. To do this, I'm going to use these Simpson Strong Tie decorative braces, along with these decorative nuts and 4-inch structural screws. I'll just clamp these in place where I want them. The screw goes through the decorative nut, and then simply screw everything into place. Alright, we're on day 8 or whatever it is, and I need to add some walls to this thing to finish it up. I decided to go with black hog wire to match the brackets we installed. The problem is I need a way to attach the black hog wire to the structure. I decided to make a frame out of 2x2 pressure treated lumber, then attach the hog wire to the frame using some fence staples. With everything attached as one piece, I can screw this frame directly to our structure, then build another frame and finish off the back side. This project took way too long, but it turned out great with the arches, the curves, the black accents with the brackets and the hog wire. Help support me by subscribing down below, and as always, thanks for watching.